Next up is Saloni Chopra, an actor, writer, and a filmmaker based in Australia and India. She authored a memoir, Rescued by a Feminist, and is a vocal advocate for women's rights. Her first film as a director, writer, producer, and protagonist is Coconut, an Australian feature film made with a diverse cast and crew. Let me come to Saloni now. Saloni has also lived in different parts of the world. She's lived in Australia and India as well. And Saloni, you have also been, you've been acting, you've been in front of the camera, behind the camera. Please share your experience in the film industry in terms of the expectations of gender roles and the representation of women on screen, especially South Asian women.
Hi everyone. So I guess for me, for starters, exactly as Shelja mentioned, it is an extremely slow process. I think things are changing gradually, but it's happening so slowly that it's going to take a while. And I think it could happen faster. It's just there's not enough people, speaking about it, and the people that are speaking about it, um, obviously have a lot of other things to do as well. Um, in terms of gender representation, if you're talking about Australia, I mean, I think it's almost very non-existent to a certain extent, which is why I decided to make Coconut in the first place, because Coconut is a story about a brown girl, who lives in Melbourne, who is in an identity crisis and is trying to figure out her life and whether she belongs to her culture and tradition or not. And that story for me was, there were a lot of people when I was trying to make it saying that, why don't you try and add like a little Australian angle to it, or the fact that she's come to Australia, that as a journey. But I'm really tired of seeing Indian people fit in as people that have migrated. Why can't it just be a story about a girl, a brown girl who just lives there, an everyday life, without really focusing on the fact that she's not really from here? So that for me was very important, because even when I watch Neighbors or when I watch Home and Away or all the shows that I see, there's always this focus on the fact that it's an Indian girl. You can't play just another character. You can't play a vast variety of things if you're not a white person. And I think that is still happening. As for India, I think we all who work in the industry know that there is a huge gap between representation of women, from women. Stories are usually told from a male perspective, and I think the more women get behind cameras and the more women write stories, that is bound to change. But the one thing that I think is still missing a lot is stories with older women. I don't see it. I don't see us represent women above the age of 40. Like, it's just not happening. We've isolated them completely, and that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately.
So Saloni, tell us, like, you've now made a film yourself. You were the director, you were the script writer for that. As somebody who has worked on the screen as an actor versus now you were also behind the camera, you were also directing it. What has been your experience? How do you feel like, how does the actor's experience or performance change when it's a majority male crew versus when you have a more diverse crew, behind the scenes, there are more women on set?
Firstly, sorry, I'm in Indonesia, so there's a prayer happening. Hope, can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can still hear
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the biggest differences, because having been, I mean, I've also been an AD before I started acting, and having directed Coconut, we went out of our way to make sure that we had a very inclusive team. So, when we were casting for someone that was queer, we made sure that we actually got someone queer. We had like a very heavy female cast. I made sure that editing was also taken care of by, there were women around at all stages, if that makes sense, because I didn't want the female gaze and that narrative that I'm trying to tell to get lost in the process, which I think happens a lot of times, where you'll have a woman write a script trying to tell a story, but then suddenly so many men come on board that you lose that narrative
Mhm.
somewhere. And we didn't want that to happen. We also made sure that it wasn't just about women. We had a lot of, like, we went out of our way on the first day when we got the entire team together to have an interview and get everyone to tell their pronouns, so people could talk about what they prefer. Are they non-binary? Do they specifically refer to, like, he, she, they, everything? And I think that by experience creates a space where you can grow together, and that really helps your project as well. Like, I think especially as an actor, a huge part of acting is observation and your ability to empathize with what's happening around you. And you learn so much more if you're allowed the space to grow and have conversations with like-minded people. Unlike, similarly, when I've been on sets in other production houses where, for example, Indian films, it's it's interesting, but at the same time, like, I've had a lot of men, like directors, big directors, tell me that they prefer their actresses to not have speak much, to not go out of their way to ask too many questions about their characters, or just do what they're told, because why use your brain so much more? And these are big directors that have said that, and I think that sort of a space, it's not only demeaning, but it's also limiting. It stops you from growing in a way that would help everyone that's involved with the film, including an audience. Asking questions and being curious is a good thing. And I don't think we should be discouraging that just because we write such limiting characters for our women.
Mm, mm. That's right. So you've actually had this experience of, creating this kind of space that you want to work in and you want to create for other women to work in as well. So that's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing Coconut and to seeing the difference there. Hopefully,
Thank
we'll
you.
we'll all get to see it soon.